Good evening, everypony, and welcome to Commentary as Magic Stream on today, Sunday, June 19th, 2022. I am, as always, Graham Pause.
What? It's June. It's June 12th. What do you want about Aracat and
Ivory Starlight, who has audio now.
hooray? Are we?
Maybe.
Does it
Say something in chat if you hear us.
does it actually work this time?
This time for sure. Okay, good. We've got verbal confirmation from chat.
No, that actually happened before we started.
Oh, did it?
Yeah. Look, the little things in OBS are going, so we're probably good. Yes, June 12th. That's what today is. Yep. Shh. Don't ask questions. It's fine. Don't worry about it.
Well, it's not often that we get to do two streams on the same topic with the exact same words, but this is just so near and dear to our hearts that we kind of had to do the encore.
It was.
Yeah, definitely that.
Yes. Yep. That's right. Yep.
That's my story. I'm sticking to it. You can't prove otherwise.
Well, no, you can't because the recording's gone and there was no audio to tell what we were saying.
Exactly.
Right? Flawless.
Yeah.
Plausible deniability. Okay, cool. What are we doing our encore on here, right? We're doing why farm is good?
Well, yeah, we're kind of talking about farm in general. You know, there's been a lot of conversation about the archetype in multiple formats, core, adventure, and, even to an extent, harmony. There's been conversation about its tools and different strategies and certain cards that people may or may not find imbalanced. Cough, cough, Legion, cough.
Might want to get that one looked at.
Maybe. But it's also a decked archetype that has been around from literally the beginning of the game. So what farm is doing is not necessarily new, it's just more and more refined every time it comes around. And yet, farm was absent for a good portion of some of the core metagame post-rotation. So what is it that has suddenly brought it back into vogue, and why is it putting up good numbers? And, just kind of want to give an overview of the archetype in general. We will also be working on a video that will be released outside of our regular streaming schedule in the coming weeks/months that should give an even more in-depth look into farm. But for now, here's kind of the highlights, right?
But we've got the Farmer's Guide to Villain Agriculture, or the Villain's Guide to Agriculture. Who knows?
Which is a fantastic title, and Ivory really nailed that one. So,
Viliculture? That probably means something weird.
Well, viticulture is close. So we'll go with that, viliculture. I like it. So, why is it that farm works in general, right? There's a few different reasons. First, farm at its base is just efficient point acceleration. Troublemakers, specifically epic troublemakers, are cheap to play and worth far more, assuming you can defeat them, in terms of points, than any other point-scoring card in the game relative to its cost. You think of a card like Rarity Truly Outrageous, which might let you score, 2 points for 3 action tokens, and having to move it home, which will then require an additional AT investment over time. You look at one of the best examples of point gain in a card like Mistmane, and that is 3 action tokens for at most 2 points. You can look at One a Bet, which still costs a card and is conditional upon granting you even a single point. And here we've got 2 and 3 point epic troublemakers, which are earning you, double or triple the number of points you're relative to the number of AT spent to play them, and giving you other benefits of winning too.
I like that ROI a lot better than 1 point for 3 tokens. Yeah.
3 points for 1 token.
Seems better. Yes, you do have to have a different setup, but still, that's an ROI you can be proud of.
Sure. And epic troublemakers have existed, well, Effectively, epic troublemakers have existed since the beginning of the game, and people have recognized this as one of the easiest ways to be able to score points, given this was easy and cheap to do even back when you would score points for being the first person to confront a problem.
Well, sure, but let's be fair, the game was kind of bad back then. Shh.
I mean, sure. But my point is that even then, even with that added ability to score points, you still had people saying, no, I'd rather just beat up bad guys.
Yeah. Well, that also leads into, and especially back then, it leads into one of the other positives of farm, which is it's fairly disruption resistant.
How do you mean?
Well, most farm decks don't keep a bunch of friends lying around. They only maybe keep a couple of good ones, if any at all, for that matter. And then with this, your main's a lot harder to interact with than, say, friends are. You can't, unfortunately, much to my chagrin, belly flop a main into a main, which would be funny. And also
until
I don't
the
know.
world explodes.
I don't know if I technically want to do that.
I'd do it. It'd be fun. Why not?
How about this? We can do it, but you're writing the comprehensive rules of how to handle a dismissed main by yourself.
No bet. Okay. Mains are hard to interact with. Your options are basically limited to exhausting them and forcing them to move somewhere. You can't frighten them, you can't dismiss them, you can't banish them, etc. So, if you're in a meta where removal is the order of the day, farming doesn't notice that so much.
It's true. You don't really see farm swarming like a lot of other aggressive decks do, bringing out friend after friend, token after token, and playing more than moving.
Well,
so.
I mean, there is a certain particular traitorous farm deck that does do that, but that's kind of a side effect of how it works.
But
sure.
Typically, you won't see it, and that particular deck doesn't usually... It more cares about the friends existing, not so much as what the friends are.
Also, what's another reason that farm can be powerful right now?
Well, since you aren't packing quite as many friends, you basically have a lot more space for answers to things that could stop farm.
That's true.
Or things that just make face-offs easier. Extra flip cards, things that give you more points if you win the face-off, just things that give you more power.
Staff, cough, staff.
Wrath of Gilda.
Yeah, wall. That's a thing. Yeah, that's true. When you're looking at the fact that, most aggro decks are going to be running something like a few dozen friends, and most farm decks are going to be running a fraction of that in terms of number of epic troublemakers. That's a lot of extra card slots, and card slots are one of the most valuable things you can have while deck building for the two reasons that I've already mentioned, right? Either flexibility to include sideboard tools or other utility tricks based on different matchups you might go up against, or just additional consistency slash secondary strategies, right? You're not really seeing farm that is only doing farm ever since AJ went to live on the apple farm upstate.
Well,
and so most farm decks are playing, farm aggro or farm control, or I can't think of a farm combo deck off the top of my head, but I'm sure someone's probably built one once.
why not stretch around the metagame clock a little bit?
They
Everything's
still
been done at
mostly
least
focus
once.
on farm.
Farm combo. I mean, isn't that just what happens when you beat up a Pony of Shadows that drops a plush dash into play that lets you beat up the whatever at the other problem? and then
Close.
double confront.
It's what happens when you beat up a Pony of Shadows that drops a Daybreaker into play. Then you beat up the other Troublemaker.
Let's just stay like so. We've had this discussion before where we don't call those combos, although some games do. We call them like synergies or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, other games would call that combo, but combo in this game tends to mean
That's because those other games don't have real combos, so they have to.
yeah.
Pancake says White Yellow Pharynx Farm is basically farm combo. I mean, it kind of is.
That exists.
Pancake says it does, and
I mean, if Pancake says it does, then that means that it probably does.
I trust Pancake's opinion on farm. What's the one other big advantage that farm has as an archetype cheese?
Kind of the way it works, it's pretty disruptive to aggro. Troublemakers do a pretty good job of stopping confronts, and especially when you mix that with villains and some of the other abilities that troublemakers have.
Like your farm,
Kind of gets in the way.
your farm deck
Also-
by nature is going to have a massive flip average too. So
Yeah.
good luck getting through those troublemakers or winning face-offs.
Well, it also makes it so that the farm player has a lot less to worry about on flips because, like, oh, most of these aggro friends are what, 2 or 3 power? Most of them.
Mm-hmm.
I like those odds.
Yeah, even being down in power, you can guess that you're probably going to be a point or more. 2 points or more ahead in flip average.
Just out of the gate because of the nature of the deck, yeah.
So, with all that said, farm sounds like it's a pretty attractive archetype. You've got a lot of flexibility. You've got a lot of room for versatility. You're pretty disruption resistant. By your very, nature, you have built-in slowing tools against the faster, more aggressive decks. Why would everyone not play farm all the time?
Well, there's one big thing about farm, which is in order for farm to really work, you have to have a critical mass of good epic troublemakers. And if you don't have enough troublemakers, you don't have access to both your win condition in terms of having something to beat up for points, and you also don't have access to one of your best ways of slowing opposing decks down. Like we just discussed, troublemakers block confronts. And if you can't find your troublemakers, not only can you not beat them up, but you're also not slowing the aggro deck down. And so for farm to really be successful in a format, you really do need enough epic troublemakers that you can get a hold of them. Like if you've only got now I think Premier got away with, what was it, 6 or 9 epics?
Premier had 2
unique different ones.
Yeah, because it was Nightmare
Yeah.
and Aoizotl, right?
Right.
Yeah.
And-
Oh, sure.
And back in just Premier, it wasn't great. But then Crystal Games, Canterlot Knights came along and gave us some more options. And then Crystal Games, even more options. And then Absolute Discord, all the options.
So many options.
And farm ruled the Absolute Discord meta because look at all these options. Also, you had mod. Mod was important.
Mod.
Mod was pretty. Yeah, look at what happened where farm was positioned, prior to core rotation. You had all of the troublemakers from the EO block. So that's Starlight, who was sometimes useful, right? You had Trixie, you had other Starlight, you still had Chrissy, you had Storm King, you had Pony of Shadows. That's a fair number of epic troublemakers. And then all of a sudden, you lost Trixie and Starlight, and non-epic Starlight, who was also played in Farm.
It was just kind of a
And-
good card, yeah.
And you saw almost no farm for a full year slash set cycle when Leaders and Legends first came out. It just didn't play, and when it did, it was not putting up numbers relative to what other strategies were capable of doing. And that's with Grogar being there as a troublemaker.
Gogurt.
The Gogurts.
Groggerts.
And then as
I mean, it's hard to justify going the farm route when 2 of your 3 options are pay 2 to move to my problem, or I move everything home when I uncover.
those both don't seem great. They really don't.
What's another issue, right? Well, we talked a little bit about Farm's kind of advantage in having more card slots available because it doesn't have to run as many friends. And while that can mean that you are not as vulnerable to removal, frighten, dismissal, what have you, the friends that you are choosing to run usually are very impactful by themselves. You think of a card like Daybreaker, you think of a card like Prince Rutherford. Back in Adventure, you think of a card like Thunderlane. Or what's another good example?
Plush
In
Dash.
orange. The Plush Dash is great in blue.
The Orange Rescue Party, yeah.
Sure, there you go. Orange Rescue Party, that's a good one.
I forgot about that one.
Oh yeah, that's a really good card too, because it's
The friend?
yeah.
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 6 power,
Extra
flip 2. Yeah, that thing alone, run that up to a troublemaker, it'll rearrange some faces.
I mean,
Sure will.
it costs. Oh, it only costs 4 to play. Right?
Yup.
Dougal mentions Filthy Rich in chat. That was a throwback.
That is kind of a throwback.
I am here because I have Diligent and I'm an Earth Pony. Your Rock Slide means nothing to me now.
Also, it has Hasty.
Or did it have Diligent? Maybe it was Hasty that it had. I don't know. It was an Earth Pony. That's what mattered.
It had both.
That's just
It
gravy.
had both?
It
Man,
had both.
High Magic was a good set.
High Magic was a really good set.
Well, yes, and Hithrock will vehemently agree with you for other reasons.
So, while you don't necessarily have to worry about setting up a big established board, if your one powerful, impactful, expensive friend gets removed, the impact that has on your board state relative to a loyal pony getting removed in blue aggro is significantly worse. So if you are running into opposing decks that are packing a lot of disruption, a lot of fright, and a lot of friend removal or anything along those lines, you might end up having a bad time if you don't have the main support to be able to carry on without your friends.
Yeah, if your strategy relied on having that Daybreaker or that Rescue Party or that Thunderlane in addition to your main, I can have a good time.
Farm is also particularly vulnerable to movement control. Since you're going to be using your main primarily, if that thing keeps getting moved away from the problem, you're not going to be able to do the thing that you need to do to win.
So we're gonna pull out the big brain thing here and just be like, farm decks can't challenge troublemakers if they're not at the problem.
Right. You can't farm troublemakers at a problem if you're not at the problem.
Go home.
.deck.
Go home. Deck. And more than just Farm's friends being expensive, right? It's other non-troublemaker cards are expensive too. Farm decks that rely on resources, most resources are going to cost 2, in some cases 3 action tokens, and many of them are also unique. So it's not like having additional copies in your hand allows you to play those redundancies out in the event that one of them gets removed. You'll have to wait a full turn cycle And if your opponent chooses to time their resource removal at the most devastating point for you, then you're also losing likely a face-off and more action tokens having to get your characters back to wherever they were, and it's just kind of a cascade failure.
Yeah, be a darn shame if you didn't have that Flash Magnus' shield on your next turn when you're going to challenge that Troublemaker. Really would.
What's the last kind of vulnerability that farm decks have?
Dead draws. You will usually have maybe 12 to 15 epics in a deck. If you can't draw those, you're not gonna be able to play them.
Or if you draw only them, then you have no tools to beat them up.
Yeah, if you're playing an aggro deck and you draw a, moderate impact, moderate power friend, like, yeah, this friend can do work by itself. If you are playing farm and all you draw are troublemakers, it's not great. If you're playing farm and all you draw is supporting resources, it's not great. In fact, it's really bad. All it can take is 1 to 2 turns where you have run out of troublemakers, and not only has your point scoring been, eviscerated, but your primary form of defense against opposing aggro decks that can and will move faster than you and will try to gain every point advantage they can in the hopes that if the game doesn't end in time, they can at least be ahead, they'll break right through.
Yeah, it's basically the same issue we were just talking about with construction, except this time it's during play. If you can't get the troublemakers, you can't do the thing.
I think this is my biggest issue with farm is it really is even a single turn of not having the right cards in hand can just totally kill you.
That's part of why the most successful farm decks have been those that have either had ways to get troublemakers out of their deck,
Or they could play the metagame clock and also run a little bit of aggro, or maybe a little bit of control.
Yep. Or they just run 25 troublemakers.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
I mean, I guess that also works.
But there are very few metas where that can happen outside of Harmony.
Well, and then there was Applejack, who was like, hello, I have beaten up 2 troublemakers. I am now at 7 power. Buy some apples, y'all.
I will win every face-off for the rest of the game off the back of my big apple butt.
Basically, yeah.
Yeah. Diligent 2 on a main was a stupid idea.
No, it was great. It's just too good. Way too good.
Okay, so we kind of took a big picture view of farm. We talked about what makes farm good. We talked about what farm's weaknesses are. But what does farm actually look like now? We've got a few decks that we can kind of highlight in both core and adventure format, so let's take a peek.
Right, so first up here, this should look maybe familiar. We've got some uniform here. This is the blue variant, so it's obviously packing some aggro shenanigans here. But you'll notice in this deck there's a ton of things with a 3 up in the upper left-hand corner. And when your Luna is boosted, those 3s aren't 3s, those 3s are 6s. The claimed flip average on this on Ponyhead is 4.36, I believe. And that is a dirty lie. It's probably a little bit more like 5.7 something.
I'll tell you what it is.
Though it is a little bit bimodal because the 2s only turn into 4s and the 4s, stay 4s. So you're either flipping a 4 or you're flipping a 6 or 7. And That's the kind of flip average that tends to ensure that you win every single face-off. Then this is also backed up by the dual whammy of Spooky Ruins and Flash Magnus' Shield. So not only do you not flip a card, if it were in a Troublemaker face-off, I'm just up 4 power. Luna is not in the business of losing, not even at children's party games.
I'd like to know the actual flip average of this deck.
Working on it.
The 4s really drag it down.
Yeah, right?
You should just drop all of them and not run them.
Sadly, Flash Magnus and Spooky Ruins are too important.
No, the 4, you should definitely remove them.
5.58.
It's pretty good.
That's starting to get up there into the don't try territory. Yeah, we should get rid of some of those 4s. I'm sure this will end well.
Yeah, do what Bugle says in chat. Add whammies.
Checks out.
No.
It's a 3 power.
I don't like it. What we need to do is start adding some Phyllises. This is a bad idea. Definitely do this. Anyway, so blue shenanigans. We got a bunch of the, usual suspects here. Got Plush Dash, got Daybreakers. Those are, and we got Beat the Rush too. Those are all really good for getting all up in a Troublemaker's grill at immediate speed. Or just, going fast if you need to. And there's a handful of additional point acceleration in here too. We got the Daybreakers and we got the Vulcan Flutterses. Oh, and all these Troublemakers. Naturally enough, you can make little adjustments to this to suit your playstyle more. But, yeah.
There's quite a number of immediate speed tricks in here, too. Between the Plushy Dash and the Fluttershy and Bulk and Beat the Rush, right? You also have the 3 Rocket Scooters, and you can just blow up one of your Rocket Scooters to put bodies at a Troublemaker to be able to challenge.
Yeah, just out of nowhere.
Yeah. Plus, your blue entry with Ruffled Pages is also a Pegasus, so if you've got enough blue, you can just kind of say, whatever. You've done your work. Turn into 3 smaller ponies in a trench coat.
I mean, this feels bad, but you can do the same thing with Plush Dashes.
I mean, if they're not going back into your hand and you just need extra bodies, I mean, why not?
Sure.
Blue Rack.
You're getting 3 blue rack.
You'll have a speech somewhere. You'll be fine. And yes, you also get the blue ponies, because the Pegasite tokens are blue.
Yeah.
This deck has one of the highest flip averages, though, of most of the farm decks we're going to talk about here. But let's take a look at another one.
Speaking of blue.
It's only mostly blue.
Only mostly.
Yeah, only mostly.
It's Blink.
Yeah, this is Captain Celaeno Pink Farm. This list has been piloted by a couple people now. It's not too different from what you would expect from Blue Farm. It just has the added bonus of Wrath of Gilda being a good card, and Gallus and Silverstream also being a good card, and Spitfire being able to do what? 3 or 4 different things, depending on the circumstances.
He's just kind of a good card, yeah.
So running Captain Celaeno as the main gives you the benefit of being able to throw in some Tempest Shadows to get an extra 6 points if you manage to fish them out, either by drawing or through Grogar. And you also have same tricks as before. You have Flash Magnus' Shield, Staff of Sakanas. Grogar's Lair has been added in here as just an extra control option to make aggro feel just a little worse when they have to deal with this.
This is about as close as farm gets to farm combo as well. Those Trixies you mentioned, or the Tempest Shadows you mentioned earlier, plus the original 2 points off your main, means you need less than half the total points in the game from your actual Troublemakers or Confronting to be able to close things out. Assuming you can find your Tempest, of course. But
Yeah.
we basically have 6 copies because the Grogars can find them too.
Yeah. And then it's blue, and although you don't have a lot of blue's normal go fast tools, you do have enough that you can still play the aggro game if you have to. So
Yeah. I mean, honestly, Prince Rutherford in here, he is just. If you're running blue in your farm, you need to find you need to have a reason to not run him.
Rutherford passes the Thunderlane test.
Yes.
Sometimes.
Does Thunderlane pass the Thunderlane test?
Nah, I don't think so.
So this
I
thing,
like to not be disqualified as soon as my deck list is checked.
understandable. Yeah, this thing plays a good chunk of the metagame clock. It's obviously farm primary. There's some combo aspects, there's some control aspects, there's some aggro aspects. So this thing will give you a good chance at making your opponent's life difficult for one reason or another.
I would personally give that deck my vote as the strongest core farm deck right now. Or at
Really?
least
The Celaeno one?
The Celaeno one, yeah.
Yeah, that tracks.
It's because Wrath of Gilda's in there.
Yeah.
Wrath of Gilda has made a permanent mark on his brain.
I mean, it kind of has.
Yeah.
Would you like to know what that mark sounds like?
Squawk!
Correct. Okay, how about another one? It may be my favorite in core, but it's not the only one.
Oh no, there is definitely another beast in the house.
It's time to buy some apples, y'all. It's not
Want some orange.
It's not the same AJ, but she's still selling apples. Although, what's this Gigi doing here? This is blue.
Did you just pronounce it wrong? You know better.
Gigi.
Cheese, no. Down.
It's Gigi.
Bad.
It is not.
Can't you read?
Yes, I can read.
Some Gigi. Anyway, what's this blue doing here? Why blue? Can you even play this? No, you can't even play this.
It is impossible to play that card.
So don't worry about it.
Gigi no re.
I haven't heard that phrase in years.
That's a good one.
Did someone just come up with the deck name for this thing?
I mean, I don't think GG is the end-all be-all in this deck. I think it's funny.
I mean, she definitely serves a purpose here. That purpose just involves everything on her card except playing her.
Right.
So what does she say here? So her first ability is Chaos that lets you dig a little bit. Okay, sure, whatever.
Looting's not. I mean, you can, if you have an extra GG in your hand, you can dump her in the yard, or you can dump your big hoof in the yard and, get a free flip that way. That seems nice.
And then it says hasty. That's kind of useless.
I mean, yeah, who cares? You're not playing her.
Then what's this third ability going on here? What's this say?
There's a word there that stands out to me.
The what?
Score?
Score a point.
Fluttershy?
Point.
Yeah. And because this is a farm deck and you have stupid flip averages, beating by 5 points is probably going to happen more than once.
Yeah. Yeah, it will. Apart from that, you've got the other AJ shenanigans, right? You've got plenty of exhaust effects through Backdraft and Honest Pony,
And then
Princess Combo Meal, Melted Expectations, and let us not forget the demon child herself. No, not Devil Babby, it's Apple Bloom.
yeah, little tiny Apple Bloom there is probably the biggest threat in this deck. You're going to have an extraordinarily bad time if this deck gets more than one of those out. And you're not going to have a great time if it's got just one.
Turning Melted Expectations into, Super Heat Wave is
kind of good. It's just a little good.
Let's just tack a free bailout on here. I'm sure that's balanced.
Totally is.
Just make sure your starting problem doesn't change.
And we talked about how exhaustion is one of the best methods of combating opposing farm, right? Because mains can be exhausted and moved, and if you can exhaust them, then that can be very tough for them to overcome. But it would be so much worse if you also had to pay to ready your characters, and you had to save action tokens in order to do so. What's the starting problem for this deck again?
Fuckball strategy. No, don't do that. It's under the weather.
Under
Always
the
under the weather.
Yeah, so Bugle says don't worry about it. Now, hold on.
We know what happens when someone says that.
Now, we know what happens when someone from Sim says that. It's fine, don't worry about it. It's probably not fine, and you should maybe be worrying about it. Yeah. I think
Does
that
this deck actually only have 6 entry?
I mean, does it need entry?
It has staff as well for additional entry.
Yeah. I guess that. Oh, yeah, the staff counts.
yes, it does.
I mean, once you're boosted, the only thing you would need additional entry for would be Rockhoof. Or, well, I guess some of the... I forgot Princess Combo Meal is also 4 Rec and Desert Roads in here.
I don't think you need to worry too much about that. You're gonna get something out, and then away you go.
Yeah.
9 entry in a mono deck. The staff does count as entry, yes.
Yeah.
This is definitely heavier on the control side, but this definitely can beat up troublemakers hard.
Yeah.
I mean, look at the extra flips that are present here, right? You've got power play. And don't forget that Backdraft is a dragon, so if you keep one of them around, that's actually 2 AT for 2 extra flips, which is very good.
And if you've got an Apple Bloom, you just bail out at something.
Sure. You've got Rockhoof, who during a face-off lets you discard 2 cards to flip an additional card, like that Gigi that you have in your hand. I'm going to keep alternating what I call it, and it's going to make Ivory very tilted.
There's also Big Hoof, who does flips as well.
And with all that exhaustion running around, your main is also likely just to be bigger from her own ability.
Yep.
And then you've also got staff. Yeah, Orange may not have the speed or the multi-face-off capability that Blue does, at least not as easily. But it more than makes up for it in its disruption and its built-in, like, near guarantee face-off tricks.
Yeah. The previous decks can aggro. This one, not so much. You know what this one can do that the previous 2 can't?
What?
Paint you into a corner.
Yeah, it kind of can. How about one more from Core?
One more? Okay. I'm gonna be honest, this looks like a combo list. What's going on here?
This isn't a farm list.
I don't know about combo, but it definitely is much heavier into the control than any of the previous decks we've seen.
It
Yeah.
only has 6 epics.
It doesn't even have 6. This current list has 5.
Oh, sorry. It only has 5 epics.
And yet, you will see this deck farming a lot.
So how can a deck that is relying on beating up troublemakers in order to get its points possibly afford to run so few troublemakers?
Your opponent's troublemakers can be farmed too.
Is this the old list? Oh, this is the old list. Hold on one second.
This is what you gave me to present, so...
No, this is not what I gave you to present. You grabbed the one without the comment that has revision 2.
Well, that's interesting. Is my audio being weird again? I think it is.
No, your audio's fine, at least
No.
on this side.
Well, the core of the idea of the deck is still here. So, geez, what are we looking at here?
Well, Gallus exhausts score points when you play a card during a face-off. And has lots of cards to play during face-offs. And it also has Wrath of Gilda, which says,
Make your opponent angry.
yeah. And that's basically what this deck does. There's also Gallus and Silverstream and, Spitfire to frighten things. Also, draw cards.
And go fast and, just generally do blue-pink annoying things.
Zelda to get rid of more things and...
Yeah, the big thing here comes down to how many points are you getting off of each face-off, right? So this deck
all
has
of them.
3 Grogars and 2 Legion of Dooms. And Gallus will get you a point in any face-off, provided that you have played at least 1 card during that face-off. And let us not forget that the Gallus window exists, which is a priority window after the winner and loser of a face-off have been determined and, the consequences of this have been applied, but before the face-off is technically over. Where Gallus's controller is free to play a card just for the sake of getting a point.
Yeah.
That means that you can effectively add 1 point value to any epic troublemaker in here, because you'll play something during that face-off to be able to get that point. So if you can beat up 2 Legions and a Grogar, 2 Legions and 2 Grogars, and have confronted with Gallus, that's all your points right there. You only need 4 face-offs to be able to close out the game.
Provided you're playing cards.
Provided you're playing cards. That's really efficient.
Yeah, and there's some cute things you can do here. Like, yeah, if your Grogar scares an opposing friend, darn, I guess that turns on the ability for Gallus and Silverstream. Free burbs. Hey, did you know that the griffins at the park are free? You can just go up and take them.
How many griffins do you have at home?
437.
Wow. Now, is this a true farm deck? By
Probably
our
not.
definition? No, it's probably a bit more on control, right? But this does bring up a good point that when troublemakers are worth enough points and provide enough disruption for you, even other archetypes will look for ways they can supplement their own point gain, because playing a troublemaker doesn't require any additional color entry. It doesn't require a lot of additional cards, and it can just really swing the game in your favor. Why pay 15 AT to score 5 to 6 points with Mistmane when you can spend like 4 AT to score 3 points? Especially in control decks where your primary goal is to keep the opponent from scoring, so point values are going to be relatively low, and presumably very few people are going to reach 15 points by the time time is called, except for blue control, which says points, mine.
Mine! I like that too.
Okay, so that's a peek at a few different core decks that have been doing very well. You may have noticed there's some similarities between them in terms of the number and type of troublemakers that they're running.
But let us go further afield
and talk about some older stuff.
I'm waiting for you to grow from the pun.
We have to adventure out to the fields. Come on.
Oh.
Further afield, yes.
Boo.
Boo.
Boo this
Boo.
pony.
Boo, my friends are scared because a villain turned face up.
Also that, yeah. I suppose that's fair. Okay, so adventure. We've talked about this one before, but turns out that Blue Luna doesn't really like losing either, and also she goes fast.
This started as a meme.
This
Is supposed to be.
this-
It's supposed to be a meme.
This did start as a
Well,
meme, and then I started.
Sometimes memes become dreams anyway.
That's especially appropriate here, given we're talking about Bluna,
The meme warrior.
the meme warrior.
Wow.
And so, I think we have talked about this before, but I took this into Babs and somehow Katamari Damasi'd my way to top 4 with it. And
Ridiculous.
I set out, and I said the line too after round 1.
I have accomplished everything I set out.
I got someone to sideboard incorrectly against it, and then said the line, and continued to shop despite having dropped.
It's pretty apparent what is going on here with Bluna, right? Bluna plays hasty cards.
Bluna,
Farm decks like playing hasty cards.
Bluna runs up, looks the troublemaker, and just is like, "Hi, you thought you were safe," and then punches them.
Well, the thing that's amazing here is you've actually sidestepped one of Farm's weaknesses by running this, because now if you can't draw your troublemakers, okay, I'll just aggro then. And I'm a perfectly fine aggro list without them.
Whatever, I'll just do blue things.
You're an okay.
It
I
is,
said perfectly fine, not tier 1.
yeah. It's certainly enough to hold you until you can find a troublemaker and then resume beating up troublemakers. Then go back to aggro.
I mean, you get a Thunder Lane with enough counters on it, you are a tier 1 aggro list already.
Yeah, that's true, but that does fall afoul of the, one of the downsides of farm is that you've got a ton of power concentrated on this one friend, and if Pinky decides that today is Thunderlane's birthday, Thunderlane's not going to have a good time. Turns out the Pinky's cannon is a perfectly viable anti-Pegasus device.
Turning every hasty friend you have into an additional 3 power because you can move your main, though, is not bad. Also, Bluna looks at that one weakness of farm where your main gets moved and is like, that's cute.
It's like, okay. Oh yeah, there we go.
And then
Yeah,
looks at that weakness of, your main being exhausted and is like, all right, that's more irritating, but hear me out, riled up.
Well, if you're playing against that orange list that we were just looking at, or an orange list that we'll talk about in a little bit,
I mean, you're an adventure where orange is a behemoth. That you should be running riled ups anyway if you're running blue.
you should be running more than 3 of them is the problem.
Well, you can't. Without
So you
getting disqualified.
So you run 3.
Yeah.
And pray to God that you have them when the orange shenanigans start.
Well, I don't think we're done with blue yet. I think there's more blue to be found this far afield.
What else you got?
How about some rainbow?
I like rainbows.
It's like original classic flavor.
Yeah.
So I think Pancake described this best. He refers to this as face roll blue farm. I think that's basically the best way to describe this. You are playing troublemakers and throwing things at them. That is what this deck does. The only time you're going to see it do anything else is if your opponent's running something that justifies keeping on even ground or riled up in.
Yeah. This has No hard removal.
It does not. This has one goal.
That's not true. This thing has 3 pieces of hard removal.
Are we including Frighten?
No,
What am I missing here?
Starlight.
Starlight. Yeah.
Oh,
That's not
I mean,
really
I
removal
guess
from play.
I don't know. I
Hard
guess
removal needs to be from play.
It is from play. Starlight clears the board.
Oh, sure. If she pops.
Yes.
If.
If.
Yeah, but let's be real. If you're playing this deck,
It's
your objective is not to let that
so
Starlight stay
rare
up long
that
enough.
she pops.
That's mostly because people are sitting there looking at the Troublemaker like, I could let this blow up everything, or I could beat it up and get 2 points. Blow up everything, get 2 points. And then Rainbow is greedy. Rainbow gotta go fast. Starlight does not go fast.
Yeah. This is get farm fast and hard. Don't worry about everything else.
Checks out. It's a good way to learn farm for sure. It's probably the most pure incarnation of it that we have that still exists in the adventure format right now. But it's not the only one. How about one more?
I want to talk about what happens when just working hard isn't enough. I gotta work harder and play harder.
And I was going to finish it if you didn't.
Why has no one used the Simpsons clip of the steel mill for work hard, play hard? I'll make this video when that's done. Oh,
This is not too different from what we saw in the core list, only you have some pretty important additions here. The first one is actually the first card on the list, and that is Big Mac Princess for a Night.
words cannot begin to express exactly how much I despise playing against this card and exactly how much I love playing with this card.
It's very polarizing.
Yes.
It's also very annoying to get copies of this thing because it was the one ultra rare out of the set that was slightly more rare than all the others.
I have my 3, that's all I need.
Yeah.
Nothing will make you saltier than watching your opponent flip a 4 for their face-off and thinking, oh, good, they're still down by 2 power, and then you realize that was a blind flip Princess for a Night, and their main just got 2 power counters, and now they're winning, and their main is also 5 power forever.
Yeah, power counters on mains is
Nothing good
there's
ever
a
happens.
reason a card got banned.
It's like it's good or something.
Yep. What else is unique here compared to the core farm, right? A couple of events.
A little card. Some people use it. It's not that popular. It's called Bailout. It's all right.
I'm kind of surprised. Well, you got the apple blooms there too, which
Bailout plus Apple Bloom, then follow up with the Melted Expectations on the same turn. Have we mentioned that Under the Weather is still your starting problem?
Oh, the number of blue decks at BabsCon that were upset to see that. There were a few.
this upsteady my spaghetti.
Bailout is only an uncommon meh, Animoy says. Yeah, it's only an uncommon, can't possibly be good, right?
Yeah.
Wrong.
I think the other event that we see added in here is Barrel Through.
Yep.
Just pay 1, flip an additional card. I mean, you have the wreck, why not?
And an apple blooms, so I don't think you can really complain about that.
And then just look at the number of epic troublemakers you have. Full rack of Trixies, full rack of Starlight Glimmers, Grogars, Legion, Nightmare Moon. You've got Winterzilla for resource removal, other Starlight Glimmer for free movement. It's just like, it's value town.
Yeah.
And meanwhile, I'll just exhaust your whole board, because, of course I will.
Because you're orange and it's adventure.
Yeah. You have a much wider variety of troublemakers available to you here. Yeah.
But yeah.
Oh, yes.
Talk about blackmail.
Just shh.
Are we not talking about blackmail?
First,
Blackmail's in the problem deck. Next question.
the first rule of blackmail is you don't talk about blackmail.
I mean, this deck can't confront 6 of its problems.
Does it care?
Nope.
No.
Pretty sure it doesn't.
Now, in core, there was a little bit of variety in terms of the troublemakers being run, usually like the third or fourth unique troublemaker. In adventure, even more so. And yet, all of these decks have, at the very least, the same 2 epic troublemakers present, right? Grogar, who makes sense, because it's an epic. Yeah, it's a little more difficult to beat up than some of the others. It's 7 power for only 2 points. But it can find you any other troublemaker in your deck.
I'm sorry, was that about Value Town? Yeah.
Yeah. So it's a great utility tool. The other one, however, has been more hotly debated recently. Do we need to talk about
The triad in the room?
Yeah, the Centaur and Bug Queen and Spawn of Tartarus?
I mean, she's just any regular child. Like, I think she's actually rather well behaved if you consider the average 3-year-old.
So about Legion, right? We brought this up in the supplement Discord channel. Legion has proven to be by far the strongest epic troublemaker that exists. To the point that it's really kind of warping and is pumping up farm decks, which were in a much worse spot when Legion came out, far more so than they need now, given the additional size of the card pool that Core and Adventure can play with. So there's been some proposed changes to reforming Legion that will make it a little bit more challenging for certain types of farm decks to go after, but also make it a bit more symmetrical, which is a little more in line with where older epic troublemakers fell. And as always, when it comes to proposed reformed cards, we always appreciate feedback from the community, as there are only so many games that we can play and so many things we can test.
So, suffice to say, they're going to get hit with a Nerf bat. The bat might enjoy mangoes.
Is this a re? E? Just E?
E.
Yeah, just E.
Okay. Any other announcements that we have?
So, look forward to seeing your new overlords at some point. Let's see. We have a... Hasn't been announced yet, but we're thinking about an online con on the weekend of July 9th and 10th. This will be core format to give people a chance to get some practice in before we go to Continentals. And the online con is about a month out. Yeah, a little less than a month. It was supposed to be a month, but then I can't see this, but I'm glaring daggers at a certain Windows audio stack. But
It's fine now.
it's doing something that's got me a little concerned, but it seems to be fine now. But yeah, keep an eye out for that. That announcement should go out in the next week or so.
Oh, and then, right, that little thing called Continentals that Bugle points out. Yeah, that's coming up here soon. Is it really less than 2 months?
Yes.
It is.
Yes.
No, not quite less than 2 months. A little over 2 months.
It's close enough. I'm not going to bother doing the math. It's 2 months. You do the rounding.
Sure.
Let's see. Yes, I think Everfree hasn't formally announced this yet, but yeah, Continentals, Everfree. It's gonna be fun. And I'm pretty sure we've announced that in the past too.
We have.
We have, but we haven't reiterated it lately.
Yeah. I think
Good to just remind people.
Yeah. Let's see, I think we've got one other thing to plug here.
Yep.
Which is the playgroup survey. We sent this out a while back, and we're interested in seeing who's still playing in person. Any playgroups that are still meeting in person or might still be interested in meeting in person, give us a fill out if you've got the time and can spare the attention. We'd appreciate knowing what's up.
Actually have a chance to play in person again. So take advantage of it and get some sweet promos. With all that said, I think it will about wrap up our discussion on this topic for today. We'd like to give a big shout out to all of our patrons on Patreon. Thank you so much for your regular support. If you aren't currently a patron and you enjoy what we do, please consider donating, as doing so does enable us to continue making content like this and lets you earn some great perks as a bonus.
You can also
If you have comments. Sorry, go ahead.
You can also get direct access to the Slack.
Slap the what?
The Slack.
You want to try that again?
Slack-a-luck.
Yes, you can also get direct access to the Slack channel where you can tell us that we messed up repeatedly. Or in advance. We'd appreciate it.
At any day, any time.
So I want to say something about that, but then again, I've been up till like 5 a.m. the last week. And today I didn't wake up until 5 p.m. It was great.
Finally, if you're looking to watch any of our previous videos, including tournament recordings, you can find them on our YouTube channel, linked just below the stream. With all that said, thank you to each and every one of our viewers, both here now and watching this recording later. We are, as always, Commentary is Magic. I am, as always, Graham Pause.
Big cheese.
The incredibly sleepy Arcat, and
The not as sleepy, but still sleepy Ivory Starlight.
And we'll see you all in a couple weeks.
yep. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.